7.1 reteaching is about cross products and solving proportions. First example says about 15 of every 1,000 light bulbs assembled at the Bright Light Company are defective. If the Bright Light Company assembles approximately 13,000 light bulbs each day, how many are defective? So they set up a proportion to solve. 15 out of every 1,000 are defective. If they make 13,000, then they want to know how many defective light bulbs per day, so they simply cross multiplied and solve. So we're going to do the same thing for these exercises down here. Let's make sure we have a color still. We do. All right. Using a proportion to solve each problem, it says about 45 out of every 300 apples picked at the apple orchard are rotten. So 45 out of 300 are rotten. If 3560 were picked one week, how many were rotten? So make sure that you know that the proportion 45 over 300 is rotten over picked. So if 3560 were picked, then that's going to go on bottom. So we have a proportion 45 over 300 equals x over 3560, and we're simply cross multiplying here. So I have, 45 times 3560 equals 300x. So all I need to do here is multiply and divide. This is just a two-step algebra equation. $45 times 3560. Is it 160, 200? Okay. 160, 200 equals 300x. I'm dividing both sides by 300. So how many were rotten? Good, 534. Okay, all right. The grocer orders 800 gallons of milk each week. He throws out 64 gallons of spoiled milk each week. Of the 9,600 gallons of milk he orders over the next 3 months, how many spoiled were thrown out? So we need to set up a ratio here. I'm going to say spoiled over ordered. So as long as you know which one's on top, then it shouldn't be a problem setting up your proportion. Spoiled over ordered. Okay, so 64 spoiled out of 800 ordered a week is going to equal how many spoiled over 9,600 ordered. The pad is not working with me. All right, so I'm simply multiplying 64 times 4,600, setting that equal to 800x. Okay, 64 times 4,600. Did it say 46? No? It looks like 46 on my screen, sorry. So it was 64 times 9,600? Thank you. 614, 400, is that right? 614, 400 equals 800x. And I need to change this number up here, and I can't. The limits of my technology. All right, that is a 9. And that was a 9. Okay. All right, so all we need to do then is divide 614, 400 by 800. And we get what? $768, is that what y'all got? Okay. Yeah. Okay, I gotta change colors anyway. Okay, it's going to start reading number 3. 7 of every 20 employees are between the ages of 20 and 30. If there are 13,220 employees, how many are between the ages of 20 and 30? Okay, so I'm going to set up proportion, and then I'll just try to type into it. Okay. All right, so it says 7 out of 20. Okay, and if there are a total of 13,220, then my proportion sets up as 7 over 20 equals x over 13,220. So when I cross multiply, I have 7 times 13,220 equals 20x. So 7 times 13,220 gives us 92540. 92540 equals 20x. I'm having us flip between screens, so stop me if I flub another number. Dividing both sides by 20. What did y'all get? 4627? Yep, good. Okay. All right. All right. On for, let's go back to red. About 56 out of every 700 picture frames put together on an assembly line have broken pieces of glass. That's probably about right. If 6,000 or 60,000 picture frames are assembled each month, how many will have broken pieces of glass? Okay, so 56 broken out of every 700. So how many broken out of 60,000? Okay, so to work this, we have 56 times 60,000 equals 700x. 56 times 60,000. Wow. 3,360,000 equals 700x. Divide both sides by 700. What an exciting video this is going to be. 4,800. 4,800? Good deal. All right. I'm sorry? 4,800? Okay. 5 through 13 is just straight cross multiplication. Okay. Then I can see on the second page here we go a little bit more into variables. So it looks like the practice is a little bit more involved than this reteaching. All right. So just practicing straight cross multiplication here. For 5, 300 times 4,800 equals 1,600x, and then you're just dividing. Every one of these is just cross multiplying and dividing. Let's do a couple of these and then move on to something else. Okay, so on number 8, let's do 8 for instance. Cross multiplying, we have 35 times 2,400 equals 150x. Okay, 35 times 2,400. 2,400. 84,000. Okay, and dividing that by 150. Yeah, if I work through all these, every one of y'all fall asleep before we're done with this video. 560. Okay, so there's an example. Number 8 should be 560. And again, on any of these where you can just see a multiplier, feel free to use that. Like for number 5, 1,600 and 4,800 are our denominators. Does anybody know what 16 times what is 48? 3. So if you simply multiply 300 times 3, you'll get number 5. Some of these may be that easy. Other ones you may just need to do cross multiplication. But cross multiplication is going to work every time, so you'll be okay. Let me show what I just said on 5. Okay, I know that 16 times 3 is 48, so 1600 times 3 is 4800. If I multiply the top times 3 also, then I know that x is 900. You may be able to see a divisor on number 7. 2,000 divided by 5 gives you 400, so what divided by 5 gives you 17, or you may just want to keep cross-multiplying. Totally up to you. So let's look at the second page, where it says in a proportion, the products of terms that are diagonally across the equal sign from each other are the same. This is called the cross products property because the products cross the equal sign, okay? So this shows you that if A over B equals C over D, then A times D equals B over C. A times D equals B over C. Okay, so then there's some properties that go with this. Okay, so you can use reciprocals of the ratios, flip the whole thing, top and bottom. You can flip the whole thing 90 degrees basically, switch B and C in proportion. Okay. And you can add the denominator to the numerator. And there are some examples of this in the practice that you're going to do today. So how can you use the cross products property to verify property 3? This is where you're adding the denominator to both of them. And it shows doing that is equivalent to, if you do cross products here, A plus B times D equals B times C plus D. And then if you distribute and subtract BD from both sides, then you can see that AD equals BC, which is what you would get if you did cross products initially anyway. Okay, so let's look at 14 through 18. Use the proportion x over 10 equals 2 over z to complete each statement here. I could probably type into this one. So x over 2, this is if you are using the numerators. Okay, x over 2 then would equal, well, x and 10 are related, so they're going to go on the same level. X, so 10 over z. X over 2 equals 10 over z. So 15, this is just flipping the whole thing upside down. Instead of saying x over 10, they said 10 over x. So instead of saying 2 over z, we'll say z over 2. And on number 16, this is adding the denominator to the numerator. So adding z to 2. So the numerator then in the boxes is going to be 2 plus z. Then you have z on the bottom here. Okay? So x for 16, x plus 10 over 10 equals 2 plus z over z. You're just adding the denominator to the numerator. Okay? 17 says the ratio of width to length of a rectangle is 7 to 10, and it gives you the width is 91. Write and solve a proportion to find the length. Okay? So this is giving us a ratio of 7 to 10, or width over length. It's giving us width over length of 7 over 10. And it tells us that the actual width is 91. And we want to know the actual length, so we can set up our proportion. 7 over 10 equals 91 over x. Then if we cross multiply here, we have 7 times x equals 91 times 10. So 7x equals 910. Divide both sides by 7. X equals 910 divided by 7. 130 centimeters. Don't forget your unit of measure. It's a pretty important part of these measurement ones. Okay? All right, and the last one. The ratio of the two acute angles in a right triangle is 5 to 13. What is the measure of each angle in a right triangle? Okay, the two acute angles in a right triangle. Well, in a right triangle, we know that one of the angles is 90, which means the two acute angles must add up to what? 90, okay? So if the two acute angles in a ratio of 5 to 13, we can say 5x and 13x, okay? We know that those two angles must add up to 90, so 5x plus 13x equals 90, and solve for x. When you have the answer for x, that's not what they're asking you. They want each angle, so then you'll need to multiply those by 5 and 13. So 5 and 13 is 18. So 18x equals 90. Divide both sides by 18. And I get 5. Okay, so if I know that x is 5, none of my angles are 5. My angles are 5 times 5 and 13 times 5. So one of my angles is 25. And the other one, 13 times 5, is what? Correct. Or we could simply say 90 minus 25, right? Okay, so there's my two acute angles. So the only other thing that we need to do, if we wanted to do such, is go back and solve the other, how many were there? 9 of these, the other 7 of these proportions. So go ahead and do that, and then I will post solutions so that you can make sure that you're good on this.